I feel encouraged by the presence of professors, both from India as well as from abroad, especially the presence of our Felix Wilfred and Father Alfred, who are my own professors, and the head of my department, Father Henry, and the Dean of Philosophy, and of course my dear students. I'm especially thankful to Paul Rice, second year philosopher, helping me in the PowerPoint presentation. Mainly I will follow the text, but at the same time to help you to support it, there will be corresponding PowerPoint presentation also, but that will be only minimum. To save the time, I will leave out certain sections of the paper which I have presented, so there will be at times jump from one point to the other point. The title, as you have seen here, Dialectics of Non-Dual Intuition of the Absolute. It is an analytical study of the concept of Shunyata of Nagarjuna in Mula Madhyamika Karika, one of the most important texts of Nagarjuna. We will have a brief explanation of some of these terms as we proceed. The term Shunyata . Okay, this is a statue of Nagarjuna. He is believed to have lived in South India between 150 and 250 of the Common Era. There is no definite agreement with regard to his period of life, but at the same time, this is a common understanding among the scholars. He is believed to be the head or acharya of one of the monasteries, and also he is associated with Ayurveda treatment also. Some of the terms which we use in this paper, the dialectics are used in this paper in two ways, as noun as well as a verb. And as a verb, it is considered as a process. The absolute in this paper is non-dual. It is in comparison to the empirical understanding of reality. Intuition, the transcendental reality cannot be perceived by reason alone. A higher means of knowledge is required. That was inside of Nagarjuna. The absolute is described in various ways like Shunyata, Nirvana, Bhagavata, Buddha, etc. Now we continue. Nagarjuna, a philosopher and Buddhist monk who lived in 2nd centuries, well known for his famous work Mula Madhyamika Karika, Fundamental Verses on the Middle Way, in which he gives a scholarly presentation of the topic Shunyata. In propounding Shunyata, Nagarjuna rejected the substantialist views of dharma upheld by the Buddhist Abhidharma texts, but accepted the teachings of the Prajna Paramita, perfection of wisdom tradition. The Abhidharma tradition, represented by Sarvastivada school. Sarvastivada means asserting everything that exists, continued the early Buddhist practice of analyzing and contemplating the dharma, the momentary factors and the rising and dissipation of existence. Nagarjuna, through the doctrine of Shunyata, argued that Abhidharma traditions, teachings with regard to reality, is not philosophically not viable. Nagarjuna, in his Mula Madhyamika Karika, presented the concept of Shunyata of Prajna Paramita tradition in a logically convincing way. He elaborately dealt with the metaphysics, the path of liberation, and the religious teachings of Prajna Paramita texts. He was of the opinion that the deepest spiritual experience is recognition that all things are empty. Chandrakirti, who was the prominent philosopher of Prasangiya school of Madhyamika, says, I quote, the Holy Master Nagarjuna, having the mother of Prajnaparamita, known without misconception, out of compassion, in order to enlighten others, composed the Mula Madhyamika Karika, unquote. Nagarjuna, in his philosophical discussions on Shunyata, responded to the truth of the prominent Buddhist traditions of his time, the Abhidharma and Prajnaparamita traditions. The term Shunyata has various interpretations in the Buddhist history. These meanings always existed within a particular religious context, and any attempt to extract them from a particular religious context could cause losing their original meaning. Following the teachings of the Prajnaparamita Sutras, Nagarjuna in Mula Madhyamika Karika repeatedly emphasized Shunyata as the most distinctive feature of the whole of reality, because nothing could be clearly said about reality. Thinkers of his time used the term Shunyata to refer to reality. Nagarjuna says, you do not know the purpose of Shunyata. Shunyata is not used for the sake of Shunyata, but for guiding the mind to reality. Abhidharma school used the term Shunyata with a different meaning. They claim that though entities like tables or any sentient beings appear to be real in their own right, in reality, they are only conceptual constructs. After the death of Buddha, his followers could not understand the real intent of Buddha's teachings and started giving various interpretations merely based on the letters. There was, hence, a need for clarity and appropriate interpretation of Buddha's ideas. By reinterpreting the concept Shunyata in Mula Madhyamika Karika, Nagarjuna laid a strong philosophical foundation to the teachings of Prajnaparamita school. Nagarjuna and Madhyamika school of thought. Madhyamika school belongs to the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism. Nagarjuna himself and Adideva, his famous disciple, belonged to the early period of Madhyamikas in the history of Buddhism in India. Based on the central teaching, whiteness, Shunyata, Nagarjuna developed the philosophy of the middle path in terms of dependent origination, pratitya samudpada, no self, theory, anatma, whiteness, Shunyata. Though Nagarjuna developed his philosophy as a critical response to the Theravada tradition of Sarvastivadins and Abhidharma philosophers, his views were also a critical response to the Indian realists such as Sankhya and Vaisheshika and the Indian school of logic, Nayayikas and Nayayikas. His use of prasanga, reductio ad absurdum, is the application of reasoning, tarka, method found in Nyaya Sutra, empirical truths and transcendental truths. Nagarjuna's extraordinary intellectual accomplishments placed him high above other philosophers of his time. Nagarjuna in his Mula Madhyamika Karika argued that Buddha taught two truths: the truth of worldly convention, Loka Samriddhi, and the truth of ultimate reality, Paramartha Satya. By employing reason, 1 to 24 chapters, as a tool to deal with the conventional reality, Nagarjuna was trying to give a firm philosophical foundation to Buddha's teachings. Though there were references to the problems of two truths in the Agamas and Nikaya scriptures texts, Nagarjuna was trying to give the first Nagarjuna was the first who deeply reflected upon the two truths and formulated them as central philosophical doctrine. Nagarjuna writes in Moramatmika, quote, "The teaching of the Dharma by the various Buddhas is based on two truths, namely the relative worldly truths and the absolute truths, the supreme truths. In a general sense, the two terms, empirical truth and the ultimate truth, correspond respectively to the ideas of the world and ideas of the world transcendent." Garjun Nago, in his book, The Fundamental Standpoint of Monthly Philosophy, writes, I quote, "The world of ordinary, everyday consciousness is here referred to as the worldly, which includes not only the biological world but also the human world of culture and society. The higher transcendent world is regarded as a religious, luminous world, and ultimate meaning is established as a negation of the everyday world beyond it and transcendent to it." Following the example of his master, the Buddha, Nagarjuna, out of compassion, adopted the technique of excellence in choice of methods or skill in means, upaya kausala, to instruct people of different levels of intellectual capability. Nagarjuna writes in Moramatmika Karika, I quote, "A wrongly conceived student can ruin a slow-witted person. It is like a badly seized snake or a wrongly executed incantation. Thus, the wise one, the Buddha, once resolved not to teach about the Dharma, thinking that the slow-witted might wrongly conceive it." Nagarjuna was of the opinion that the slow-witted must be taught the lower truths because the higher truth is harmful to such people. But if properly instructed, the lower truths may lead a person to higher truths. Though the focus of the Karika is the transcendental truth, it incorporates the empirical truth. Empirical truth is the starting point of Nagarjuna's journey towards the transcendental truth. There is a progressive realization of the one to the other. It is a continuum culminating in the transcendental truth. So, both are not at the same level, but in two different levels of reality. According to Richard King, I quote, "The distinction between the two truths is semantic and not ontological." Nagarjuna accepted the practical distinction between the two, but this is essentially pragmatic and should not be taken to be a real distinction, unquote. Reason alone is incapable of reaching the final goal. Hence, Nagarjuna made use of the doctrine of dependent origination, praditya samupada, for his journey. Emptiness is a qualified term. Epstein observes that, quote, "The grammatical character of Nagarjuna's use of emptiness is revealing in that it is always used adjectively. Emptiness is always the emptiness of something, or emptiness is always the predicate of something. For Nagarjuna, the ultimate reality is emptiness or shunyata." Nagarjuna never makes a mystical or sweeping statement with regard to this. He said, "Void of something," in order to make it a rational enterprise. He clearly wanted that emptiness is not something in general, but emptiness is always of something. Heidegger says, one should not say, quote, "One should not say he is void or not void, both or neither, but one may use terms for such designation." By using designations, Nagarjuna wanted to state things concretely. By stating things concretely, he was refuting or referring to things with logical and rational backing. Another feature is that Nagarjuna says, "All this is empty and not all is empty." all this is empty is not saying that of the statement all is empty. Nowhere in Karika we come across a statement like all is empty. But it is worth noting that even when Nagarjuna makes such a universalized statement, he retains this in order to eliminate the absolutist state. Silence as dialectic. In the Western tradition, philosophical tradition, Zeno is considered to be the first discoverer of dialectic. According to T.D.R. Murthy, a famous philosopher in Buddhism, Buddha was the first philosopher in India to discover the dialectic. The evidence for this was that Buddha refused to answer certain questions, such as whether or not the world has a beginning or an end in time, and whether or not someone exists after death. Murthy argues that Buddha did not answer these questions because he knew that they could not be answered at all. Thus, Buddha's expression was his critique of his reason, which trades always in opposites. Thereby, Buddha's silence was the first Buddhist use of dialectic. According to T.R.B. Murthy, I quote, dialectic is self-conscious spiritual movement. It is necessarily a critique of reason. This is not possible without the consciousness of the opposition of the thesis and the antithesis. There must be at least two viewpoints or patterns of interpretations diametrically opposed to each other. A dilemma is not a critique, for that is a temporary predicament having preference to a particular situation. A dialectic is a universal conflict affecting every sphere of things. Unquote. It is interesting to see that from common sense and science, such opposition does not arise, although they use opposed concepts to interpret things. Whereas in philosophy, hypothesis cannot be proved or disproved by an appeal to sense experience. So, our conclusion is this: dialectic, which trades reason in opposites, is implicit in philosophy. And Nagarjuna makes use of this dialectic to lead human beings to the ultimate principle, Shunyata. Nagarjuna's dialectic. T.R.B. Murthy portrays Nagarjuna's dialectic as, quote, a movement from the relativity of buddhi, intellect, which is phenomenal to the non-dual intuition of the absolute, from drishti, dogmatism, to prajna, intuitive knowledge of the absolute. For Nagarjuna, absolute is the non-dual intuition, prajna paramita. Nagarjuna's dialectic tries to remove the conflict inherent in reason by rejecting both the opposites taken singly or in combination. Nagarjuna is convinced that the conjunctive or the disjunctive synthesis of the opposites is but another view. So, Nagarjuna's rejection of all views is the rejection of the competence of reason to comprehend the ultimate reality. And the rejection is not based on positive grounds or the acceptance of another view. It is solely based on the inner contradiction implicit in each view. Nagarjuna employs dialectic in philosophizing. He largely relies on reason to tread the way ahead. It is not matter whether he despises or not despises reason at all at the end. But what matters is that he makes use of reason for very many purposes. Nagarjuna adopted the methods of formal reasoning from the Tirthikas and utilized them to expound dharma. In the Karikas, the three laws of thought of Western logic are not denied. Furthermore, two of them are explicitly affirmed. The principle of the contradiction is the most effectively used argument by Nagarjuna, since he relies heavily on dichotomies. This principle is expressed in two bases: existent and inexistent in a unity is not true to fact. Chapter 7, verse 30. Since they are mutually contradictory, where are there both real and unreal in the same place? Chapter 8, verse 7. The law of excluded middle also is used clearly in some places. A goer, quote, a goer does not go. A non-goer does not go. What third one other than goer and non-goer goes? Chapter 2, verse 8. A goer does not stand still, and a non-goer does not stand still. What third one other than goer and non-goer stands still? In chapter 2, verse 15. With regard to the third law of identity, it remains neither affirmed nor denied by Nagarjuna. Nonetheless, unity and multiplicity are mentioned in non-logical sense in many places. Example, others do not occur in another and does not occur in a non-other. And when otherness does not occur, there is neither another nor an identity. Chapter 14, verse 7. Here we refer to the explicit use of the three laws of the thought in Nagarjuna's philosophy. Nagarjuna inherited the lemmas to the Koti from the Buddhist tradition which preceded him. Language and its relevance. Most of the Indian philosophers, both before and at the time of Nagarjuna, agreed with a concept of meaning as a relation between words and objects. If words do not correspond to objects, they are unreliable and false. They are reliable and true if they correspond to the objects. Nagarjuna's emptiness is aimed at refuting the popular theory of meaning. To Nagarjuna, words and names are unreal or empty. No word has a meaning by itself. The meaning of a term is not same as the object for which the term stands, but is dependent upon conditions and circumstances. Unquote. So, our contention is, meaning of a term is dependent upon the conditions or circumstances. So, if the context or condition changes, the meaning of the word changes. Then language is a mere instrument or tool. Nagarjuna claims that metaphysical systems are simply fabrications based on a misconceived notion about the role of language in relation to the world. According to the teaching of Nagarjuna on emptiness, it is wrong to hold the referential theory of meaning, and it is wrong to have the contextual view of meaning also. So, Nagarjuna is not an irrationalist. He is committed to the canons of rational argument and criticism. He never suggests mystical ways to reach the liberated state. He believes that the reasoned argument can lead to the abandonment of error and to knowledge. He is not of the view that the conventional world is completely riddled with contradictions. But it is no doubt true that in Nagarjuna's view, many of our pre-theoretical and pre-philosophical conceptions regarding the world are indeed riddled with incoherence. It is the task of Mohammed to get them coherent. If at all Nagarjuna asserts contradictions, they will be defended rationally and they will be asserted in the service of reasoned analysis. Skillful means and wisdom. The main intention of Nagarjuna's writing Karika was his desire to guide people to liberation through skillful means and wisdom, not to explain or to describe. Buddhist doctrine on wisdom is abundant but always includes skillful means. If we see this from another angle, the progression from practice to attainment is entirely human construct. That means it is a merely worldly convention. The entire process of cessation through the cultivation of truths and the path is worldly and conventional. Is it a scientist talk? What about and reason? Nagarjuna has never done away with the use of reason. Instead, he made use of reason, the conventional reality shaped to expound his teaching. Chapters 1 to 24 of Muramathigariya is an analysis of different concepts through which Nagarjuna tries to expound the ultimate truth. And he analyzes the concepts employing reason. In fact, what Nagarjuna attempts to do is to clear away the metaphysical problem of reality as from conceptual confusion itself. The ultimate role of reason is to find out that every entity or phenomena is dependently originating. That was the main point of Nagarjuna's writing Muramathigariya. If everything is dependently originating, then everything is empty. Nothing is permanent. In Karika, the term he most frequently uses is pachyati, Sanskrit term meaning perceives or sees. Nagarjuna claims, quote, not to perceive, na pachyati, is itself, nature or substance, subhava, or permanent existence, bhava, astitva. What he claims to perceive, pachyati, is dependently arising phenomena as well as dependent arising. Each phenomena or reality depends on the previous one as well as the succeeding one. Such perceptions are not results of a special intuition, but they are the results of the absence of ignorance created by one's own dispositions for the extremes of substantial existence and nihilistic non-existence. And I quote from Muramathigariya, whatever is dependently co-arising, that is explained to be emptiness. That being a dependent designation is itself the middle way. Something that is not dependently arising, such a thing does not exist. Therefore, a non-empty thing does not exist. Muramathigariya, chapter 28, verses 18 and 19. Once we understand that things are dependently originating, the next step we get to know is that dependently arising is emptiness. Quote, to say of something that is dependently co-arising is to say that it is empty. To say of something that is empty is another way of saying that it is arising dependently. Or field on dependent arising. Conclusion. So, the role of reason is very much operative with the convention of self, and its primary duty is to see things as dependently arising. That means the entity is empty. Nagarjuna proposes in Muramathigariya that recent argument could lead one to the abandonment of error and knowledge, and that is the way to enlightenment. And without conventional truths, the absolute truth is not possible. Nagarjuna redefined Shunyata as a creative tool in discovering new and creative frontiers of philosophy. As far as Shunyata is concerned, Nagarjuna was not a blind leap into the unknown, but he faithfully followed the Prajnaparamita line of thinking. Shunyata, according to a particular philosophical discourse, receives a distinctive meaning in the Buddhist thought. This concept is elaborately discussed, as we have already seen in the famous book. Unlike other thinkers of his time, philosopher Nagarjuna realized that the problems related to reality could not be solved by intellectual reasoning alone, but it required an intuitive approach. In this attempt, instead of offering a new solution to the problems in philosophy, he made a radical critique of the then existing philosophical system, through which he redefined the limitations of language in revealing the ultimate reality Shunyata.